Hey guys, it's Cam from Craft and Tailored, and in this episode of What is on My Wrist, we are talking Doxa, specifically Sharkhunter 300T. This is a watch that's from 1975. It is a time capsule watch, super cool watch with a bunch of cool accessories. So let's get into it. So Doxa was founded in 1889, which is a really long time ago. Doxa's been around for a really long time making watches. In the 1960s, Doxa really allocated most of their funding towards making dive watches, sport watches, dive sport watches, if that makes sense. Dive sport watches, you like that? They created the helium escape valve, I think alongside of Rolex. There's some really good documentation on that as part of their history. Matter of fact, Doxa is also known and has a good lineage and history and a close association with the Cousteau family and Jacques Cousteau. Matter of fact, Cousteau was known for testing a lot of diving equipment. So in the 1960s, Cousteau was the head of US divers. He was so impressed by the Doxa 300T sub, or the Sharkhunter, that he actually worked with Doxa to co-brand the watch and offer it in his diving catalog as a piece of equipment. This variant specifically from 75 that is on my wrist this week is a black dial variant. Doxa chose to use a very bold white set of hands, and you'll see that throughout the Doxa range. Is the visibility and the toolness of the watch was definitely considered in terms of manufacturing and designing these true tool watches. The watch itself it's a chunk. It's not oversized, it's not necessarily big, but the watch itself is beefy. It's a tool watch. It's really ruggedized. The cool thing about Doxa in this era too, as an innovator, I think they were really incorporating other materials and kind of other technologies, I guess you could say, into their timepieces, where other brands like Rolex really weren't doing that. For example, if you look at our Rolex Submariner 16800 video, the Rolex Submariner 16800 was the first Rolex Submariner to employ the use of sapphire crystal. This is from 75, and the crystal on this is sapphire. This Doxa actually has a click spring in it, very robust, and again, from a kind of a safety perspective, isn't a bezel that can rotate both ways. It's very rugged, and it's kind of tough to turn a Doxa bezel. I wouldn't say tough, but it's there, right? You can tell that this is a piece of equipment. Again, white hands on black dial, very visible. This watch I think would be great at night as well, because if you looked at it in very low conditions, there's tritium lume on the dial and in the hands, but again, you can kind of see that the hands on the dial, they just really jump off the dial. There's a presence there. Obviously, these watches were used for timing air supply and things like decompression, so that minute hand is very important. The sweep seconds hand also has like this little square cube almost to it. The bezel actually has a decompression calculator on, so it's got a decomp timer for timing decompression. That was a US Navy standard, and they incorporated that into the outer part of the bezel of the watch, and then it's got, you know, your standard timer here on the outside. What's also interesting is you actually have two lume pips or pearls or whatever you want to call them at the 12 o'clock position. The decomp is in red, and the minute is luminous material, so it's in tritium filled. So I think that's kind of a cool feature. The bezel also has what they call like the shark tooth type of bezel. And again, another design feature, it's really grippy, so if you have gloves on, you can operate that, which is really cool. One of my favorite features of this watch is the bracelet. So often people talk about Rolex and these other companies being an innovator, but for example, this is a beads of rice bracelet. The nickname comes from kind of these center links here that kind of look like grains or beads of rice. At the end of the bracelet, obviously this being a dive watch, there is like this kind of spring-loaded stretch, so that when you put this watch on over a wetsuit, you actually have an extended amount of mobility while wearing the watch, so that as you're moving your wrist, the end pieces kind of move around and accommodate movement. This watch, being a time capsule, The condition on this watch is just insane. When you look at the case finishing of this watch, when you look at the bezel, when you look at, things like the dial, this watch is just in almost a new old stock condition. I don't think it was worn really at all. The watch actually retains its original sales box, which is really, really cool. It has the Synchron kind of warranty booklets, the Doxa instruction booklet on how to operate the movement and the date functions and features, some extra links, which this bracelet alone is just insanely hard to find. Doxa collectors go nuts over these bracelets and they are very, very hard to find. And it also retains the original Doxa hang tag and the little 300T wax seal. So to have all this together, I think really makes this a wonderful collector's item, but it's also a watch that is just a gem to wear, and it's really, really cool and vibey and fun. Thanks for tuning in, guys, to this week's episode of What Is On My Wrist. Couple of quick things. I'm gonna provide a link below to a blog article that we did about the dive watches of Jacques Cousteau, and we definitely talk about the Doxa 300. So make sure to check that out in the comment section below. This watch is available for sale currently on our website. So I'll provide a link to that as well. And there's a lot of great information extended on Doxa, Cousteau's involvement, and the 300T. So I'll also provide a link so that you can check out this watch on our website. And be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Also be sure to check us out on Instagram, and that is @CraftandTailored. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and I'll catch you on the next episode.